All summer long, News Channel 5 has been providing you with extensive coverage of the algae problem and the competing concerns about source point pollution, what area needs to do more or the most to help curb this problem. Our reporter Alex Hagan's been doing a lot of that groundwork. Here's a story he did recently about a farmer in the Glades and the steps being taken south of the lake by that farmer to prevent chemicals from going back into the water.
Along State Road 80 is a sugarcane farm.
Very productive farm right on State Road 80.
Part of Paul Allen's R.C. Hatton Farms.
Yeah, this farm here is a 480-acre farm that we happen to have in sugarcane right now.
Paul wanted to bring me out here after a recent trip to Fort Myers, where he says some place blame on sugar farmers for the ongoing algae crisis.
Last weekend, a waiter found out I was a farmer, and believe it or not, he wanted to pick a fight with me. It was really sad.
So this is a district canal running through R.C. Hatton Farms outside of Belgrade, and I'm told by farmers that they are required to make sure the water being pumped into this canal is clean.
A monitoring device, and that's how they measure the phosphorus loads that's coming off our farms. This is a rain gauge. We cannot even start our pumps unless we have 1 inch of rain.
Paul, along with his son Jonathan, showed me their required practices to prevent chemicals from getting into this canal, which is not connected to Lake Okeechobee.
Coming off of our fields is filtered before it gets to the ditch. Stuff that we do to try to prevent, polluted water.
Paul even wanted to show me it's safe. They fish in this canal.
Catch fish all the time, so much we put a little fish feeder to feed the catfish.
Another reminder, Paul says, much of the pollution comes from north of the lake. Only a very small percentage from back pumping south, according to district numbers.
Well, if you don't do anything north of the lake and clean the water before it gets to the lake, you're not helping the lake. Yeah, we want the water to be clean, but we also want the people to know where the dirty water is coming from, and it's not off our farms.
In Belgrade, Alex Hagan, WPTV, News Channel 5.
Precisely the point that Carson Turner, County Commissioner from Hendry County, was making, saying, listen, we know we've got to do our part, but there are a lot of other pieces that we talked about very avidly in our last segment. Pick up on the thoughts of that farmer and what you've been hearing all summer long, not just from him, but from people in that community.
Well, obviously, this issue getting a lot of attention all summer long, and we talk about farmers in the Glades. And Paul Allen, who you saw there in that piece there, he actually reached out to me, and he wanted to talk about his best management practices because, obviously there's a lot of blame that goes on in this contentious issue, and he wanted to show me what they do to prevent nutrients from getting into the waterways there in the Glades, and obviously Lake Okeechobee as well. And and towards the end of that piece, you heard a lot about some district numbers and where much of the nutrients and the inflow into Lake Okeechobee comes from. And he obviously pointing to north of the lake, and some of those statistics, those numbers, according to the district, South Florida Water Management District, is the majority of the nutrients come from north of the lake, the Kissimmee River Basin, not from south of the lake. Very small percentage from farmers.
The other big issue, as we heard our prior guest talk about, is the pollution aspect aside. The natural sheet flow of water that used to be Lake Okeechobee South would require far more land, ultimately, than the reservoir now proposed. We're waiting to see funding. As you've talked over the summer and even long before, you've been covering this issue extensively. What is the sense about that part of the debate, about the need for perhaps even more water down the road? Because now you're talking about livelihoods versus environmental concerns. Give us a perspective there.
I think with this ongoing algae issue now on both coasts, we saw it on the West Coast as well, and there's a lot of push from there. We've seen a lot push for more land south of the lake. We already have the reservoir. The district had already came up with the designs and sent it to Congress for approval, which we know, Congress needs to approve their side of the money. And a lot of people, with the momentum that has been coming in this summer, is more land and push for that. But the district has come out and said that the reservoir as it is would reduce discharges by about 65%. So even with that project, still a significant amount, regardless if there's a push for more land. So a dynamic project as they're designed it right now, but still maybe to some folks that I've talked to in my reporting over the last couple of months, maybe not enough. But then that also brings up the subject of maybe more projects, whether it's north of the lake, east, west, more storage. So it kind of points to different kinds of projects, not just this one single project south of the lake that will fix this issue that, quite frankly, we've been dealing with for years.
Well, I think you have provided as consistent a perspective for the huge community south of the lake as any reporter around. And it's a group that at the end of the day saying we want a holistic look at everything. We know we're part of that, but let's look at all pieces. And you've done yeoman work on that for the last year plus, and we really appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for your report.
Of course.
And we will be back with more in just a moment.